To demonstrate the use of Git and GitHub, we're going to be working with 3 scenarios. As you've seen listed here, we're going to collaborate, we're going to contribute, and we're going to manage our current project. Our assumptions are that the main or master branch holds the code that's tested and ready for public use. And then we may have an optional development or develop branch where development happens. We'll merge, we'll test new features and bug fixes there. Scenario A, managing a current project. Here we switch to our project directory from our terminal, initiate a Git repo, set a remote URL for example, a GitHub URL, decide the workflow on how you want to productively and consistently manage your change, switch to a preferred branch, add project files there, save the files to local repo, and push your local changes to the GitHub. So this is our current project. We have portfolio project for data scientists as our personal project. If you installed Git properly, you see all the various interfaces where you can use Git to manage your project. So we're using Git bash here. So when you list all the files there, you can see index.html is the only file in our project. A Git status will tell you the status of commits in the project. None. None because we've not initiated this project as a GitHub repo or repository. To do that, we'll do a git init. But when you do a git init with the H flag, you see all the options there. When you do a git init with the B flag, and that's the initial branch name, you are going to be overriding the default, which is either main or master, depending on your version of Git. So when you want to override the default name, you use that flag. So a git init will initiate our project for us as a Git repo. As you can see, it's a git directory there now. So when you do a git add all, you add all the files in the project. You can see all the options. When you do a git with the H flag, you can see all the helpful information you need. Here, a git add all will add all files in the project. We can also name the individual files. In this case, we only have index.html. The dot there is another option when you want to add all files, if you don't want to use the all flag. So after adding the files, we do a git commit with the M flag. That's the message, M for message. So do a git commit M flag, and you can see one file change, 42 insertions. That 42 insertions tells you about the number of lines in that one file that was changed. As you can see, I have 42 lines in this index.html file. That's to tell you that Git tracks changes on your files line by line. Changes on every line are tracked by Git. That's why it's telling you have 42 insertions. When you do a git status, see on branch main, nothing to commit, working tree clean, because we've added all the files we need to add, we've made a commit. Now we can push. It says, hey, fatal, no configuration to push destination because we've not added a remote URL. In this case, our GitHub URL or GitHub repo URL, where we want to move this our local repo to. So go to GitHub and create a new repo on your GitHub account. As you can see, name of my file is itg portfolio. That's the same name I'm going to give to the repo online. That's the name I'm going to give to my GitHub repo so that it matches. It says it already exists because I had earlier created this for this project. So I can go ahead and use the repo I created earlier, which is still empty. So you create it as a public repo or private, depending on your choice. You add a README, you ignore template, and then you create a repository. But I already done that, so I'll just go straight to use it. As you can see, GitHub gives you a bit of information on how to start using this repo. As you can see, it's empty. There's been no commit yet. So GitHub says do a git init on your local file, add readme, make a commit, or name a branch. Then from here you can see the git remote add origin. That's the command we're going to use to add remote to our project, so that we can move our local repo into GitHub. So add a readme. Hey, just name it and say my personal portfolio. Just add a little title there. Add a readme so that anybody who is seeing the project can understand what the project is about. I added secret files to show you how git ignore works. So when you do a git status, git ignore and readme are the only files showing. It doesn't show the secret directory because they've been added to the git ignore file. That's Git doesn't track those files. Any file in the git ignore is not tracked. When you do a git status now after deleting them, you can see they are now showing. They're no longer secret. You use this git ignore to not track files that you don't want to push into a public repo. So we add all the files we created, the readme and the git ignore, and commit with an appropriate message. You can see 2 files change, 3 insertions. The 2 files are the git ignore file and the readme file. If you open the readme, you can see only 1 line, and then when you open the git ignore, you see 2 lines. That's 2 files and 3 insertions. Git is tracking every file line by line. So when you do a git status, you see nothing to commit. So we do a git log, we see all our commit history in details, and it says the head pointer is on the main because we're in the main branch. We only have 1 branch on this our repository. The git log 1 line shows git log 1 line with decorate flag, graph, and all. So you can see the difference between using a combination of these different flags. Shows a more detailed and graphical representation of your GitHub, of your Git commit histories. Like I said, when you do a git push, if you've not configured the remote, it's not going to go. It's going to show you an error. So you have to configure that. GitHub gives an example here. It says git remote add origin. So we'll copy the URL for the remote repository, and then we use this command to move to add a remote to our local repository. Git remote add origin. Origin will be the name of our remote repo. So git remote add origin. As you can see, when you do a git remote v, you can see the remote that has been added there, can now push and fetch. If you do a git push with a U flag, you are trying to set Git to track the upstream, meaning every time you do a git push, you will not need to specify the particular branch you are pushing the file to, the changes to. So when you do a git push set upstream to origin main, say, hey, new branch main is set up to track origin main. Our local branch main is set up to track origin main. That's what Git says here. So the next time you do a git push from this branch, it goes straight into the origin main branch on our remote. As you can see, our files have been pushed, and you can see our commit messages too. As you can see our readme, this is why the readme is important. Our latest commit says add, ignore, and readme files. Hey, we made 2 commits. You can see the commit history here on GitHub. First, the recent one and the previous one are all listed there with their various IDs. So you can see the details of each commit. You can actually see details of each commit, changes made. So when we make a change and add another of my skill, I build models, you can see my Visual Studio Code indicates that there's been a change because it also has Git plugin incorporated. So when I do a Git status from the terminal, I can see I've modified index.html because I added a new skill. So to add this change, I have to add this change so that Git can begin to track it. When I add the change, then I can commit it. If you do a git restore, that change is removed by Git. As you can see, it's been removed. I'll tell you how much power Git has over your repository now. So I add it back. My skill, I build models. When I go ahead to do a git status, you can see it's back. I've modified index.html. Git difference shows the difference between the files, the changes. You can see it's in green there. It means I added a new line. Shows the change I've made in this particular index.html file. So I add the index.html file so I can commit these changes. As you can see, Git indicates that I've modified the file. Do a git status, says hey, modified index.html. Now Git is tracking this particular change, so I can commit now. I commit these changes and push them to GitHub. So git commit with the message add new skill. Hey, one file change, one insertion. Remember I added only one line. That's what indicates there. One insertion. You can see. Let me change one file, one insertion. When you do a git log, you can see it says, hey, the pointer is now on the local main branch, which is 1 commit ahead of origin main. That's origin main is my remote repo. It says I've made 1 commit more than the repo in GitHub. So my main local branch is 1 ahead of it. So I do a git push to push my changes to GitHub. As you can see, I don't need to set upstream again with the U flag because I set it earlier. So a git push pushes it exactly to the main branch on my origin. That's my remote repo. You can see main will push to main. to do a git log. It's all the different flags, and you can see the head was one commit ahead before. My local branch was one, my local repo was one commit ahead of the remote, but now they are on the same line, meaning I've pushed my changes and both my local and my remote repo are in sync. When you refresh page, you can see a build models has been added. In the second scenario, we collaborate on a project. Here you're working with your colleagues on a particular project or some other developers. You get a local copy of the remote repo you have access to from the development branch, maybe the main branch, depends on what your workflow is like. Create a new branch, make changes to the project, save the changes, and push these changes to the remote repo. So we have IT web here working to create a solution for an imaginary client. That solution is named MySense. So when you go to settings, the owner of the repo EcoSense can set interaction limits, code review limits, or add collaborators so that whoever is added here can have access to the repository to push changes. Sorry. So as the admin of EcoSense, click add people. Here I'm going to add myself. So here EcoSense is adding me as a collaborator. In my email, I get a notification that hey, EcoSense wants you to collaborate on this repo. Also, in my own personal GitHub account, I get a notification that says hey, invitation to collaborate. When I click on it, I see accept invitation or decline it. When you click accept invitation, it takes you to a page. It tells you oh, you have push access now to the repository. So I can go ahead and let's check the issues. So ways I can contribute. I can build an about section on your homepage or correct a bug on the main heading. So go to code and get the URL of the GitHub repository. So I clone it to get a copy in my local machine. You can see it's being copied from the GitHub repo. So here, when you do a git status says on your main branch, you're up to date. A git log will show me all the git save history of this particular repository. As you can see, both my local branch main is on the same, as on par with the origin main. And also the develop branch on par too. And the last commit was to fix the readme typo. So git checkout to develop checkout. I switch to the develop branch. I do the same command there. As you can see, develop is also on same in sync with the remote repo. This is a project. So I go to EcoSense repo and see what I can do to this repository. The issues are features or bugs to fix. So I can see a bug says main heading not centered. You can see the main heading is not centered. That's a bug I should fix. say build an about section of for the home page too. That's a feature I can add. So you can see you get a copy of which you've done from the develop branch. Since it has a develop branch, we'll go to the develop branch which you are in already and create a new branch from the develop. This new branch is a branch to fix a bug. As you can see, the Git naming convention there, bug center heading. One is the name of the number of the issue number 1. So if you do a git log, you can see it's in sync with the developer and the main branch. So let's go on and solve the issue of the main heading and center it. We do a text align center. Center the main heading. When you refresh, you can see it's at the center now. So you do a git status is be modified, and we then will commit this change with the message fixed heading. Do a git add. So we git push your origin bg center heading 1. So we're setting up this new branch to be tracked on the remote. So it says new branch, local branch is set to track origin branch. As you can see, a git remote v shows you the origin, so it's automatically set by GitHub. Since we cloned this, we did not need to set the remote URL. So we git checkout to develop. As you can see, develop is not up to date with the new branch we created and the new changes we made. When you switch back, you can see the changes have been added back. So you can see a new branch here. It says, hey, the branch is 1 commit ahead of the main and the develop branch too. So switch to develop branch. As you can see, when we switch to develop branch, the changes we made is gone. This tells you how much power Git has over your repo. So we'll switch to develop branch so we can solve the second problem, which is not actually the problem, it's a feature. We're supposed to add a feature, what we do about us. So you have to create a new branch to add this new feature. You can see it feature about section 2. 2 is the issue ID, which is 2. So here it says modified. We'll add this modification or change. Do a git status. You can see it's being tracked by Git. So we'll do a git commit. When we do a git commit without a message, our configured editor shows a pop-up where we can do write a more detailed commit message. As you can see, it shows you everything under the hash is a comment. It won't be committed. It's kind of changes to be committed, modified. So write the topic of this particular commit, which is the feature add about section, and then the footer, say this closes issue 2. This closes issue 2. You can see number 2, that's the number of the issue. So we can add a body and say include session. Then we can add the scope to the topic too, to the subject of this commit. You can add the scope and say, hey, this impacts on the services. You can also remove it, doesn't matter, it's optional. So when we close this, You can see one file change, 15 insertions, one deletion. You can see what you can see changes have been implemented. You do a git push. You can see resolved. So it says create a new pull request so we can add this to the main branch. Local branch set to track remote branch. So you check out to develop. As you can see, it's gone back to the default, which is what develop is yet, because we've not merged the changes. So you can see I have to create a pull request so we can merge these changes. First of all, to our develop branch, because that's what we're allowed to do. So you can see we're going to merge this to the changes. So if you click on create pull request, it's going to be merged. You discuss and then merge it. Create a pull request. There's here no conflict. Go to pull request, you can see one is open, the other has been closed already. So create a pull request for the second. You can see the body and the footer there, and then the subject as the topic of this pull request. As you can see, no conflict. I'll refresh, see that you have to open pull requests. Say, hey, nice, please merge it. You can merge. So when you go sense, I can also request a review from EgoSense. And see, you can request a review from EgoSense before merging. So add a review. Viewed. Approve the change as EgoSense and submit a review. Once EgoSense has approved and reviewed the particular change, you can now confirm merge and delete the branch. As you can see, only one pull request is open. Open it. You can see. So you can see you have a pending pull, you get a pending review. When I go to EgoSense account, I can see add your review. Review the changes. So I viewed this. Can either just write a comment, approve, or request that more changes be made. I say, hey, great, I can merge it and approve it and submit. I've reviewed the change as a collaborator on this project. As you can see, requested a review and a review has been approved. The review has been approved. So you can merge the pull request. One approval has been given. I can now merge the pull request and confirm merge. As a collaborator on the project, and delete branch if I like. So you can see I have to merge develop into main so that this changes is available on the main branch, which will always be available in production. So I create a pull request to merge develop into main. I say hey, new stable version, create pull request. So you can see, merge pull request, confirm. So you go to the code, you can see the main is up to date with the develop and the. So when you do a git checkout to develop, then you pull the changes into develop. You can see changes have been pulled from the remote. All those branches that were merged into develop have been pulled down, and even the main branch also pulled. You can see when you refresh, you can see all the changes are showing. When you go to the main, when you switch to the main branch, do a git pull, up to date. When you go to the GitHub repo, you see one closed, one open. When you check out the closed issue, you can see one linked pull request. Why? From our message, you can see that since we included at the footer that this closes issue 2, automatically GitHub closed it. Scenario 2, contributing to open source. Hey, we ask the project maintainer to read up or read up on instructions on how to contribute to the project. We fork the open source repo as the upstream to get a remote copy. Then we clone the remote copy. From this table branch, that is the main or the master, we'll create a topic branch or feature branch to make changes to the project, save these changes, push this new change, and then make a pull request from the upstream to add our contribution. So here's a project. It's an open source named About Me has a first version named About Me, an open source community effort to build a single page personal website template which anybody can use. This is how to use it. Customize sessions with these braces. So when we check the issues, you can see we have 2 issues here. Center the page headings and then build the contact section of the home page. So 2 issues we have to do. So we'll fork this project after confirming that we can contribute to it. As you can see, I'm now in my own create a repo. So I'll copy the URL and clone it. So I'm cloning this repo directly from my own GitHub account. As you can see, the issues. You go git checkout to create a branch to make changes. So add change, create the about me section where we add email and phone number. Refresh it and you can see the changes have been implemented. It has reflected. And then when you refresh, you can see it's been centered. Text align center, you center the headings. So when you do a git status, see modification on the index.html page. Git add index.html to add the file and do a commit so that we have a page to edit our commit message in the editor. As you can see, we have two issues there, which we've combined into this branch. So two issues we're dealing with here are the page headings will be centered, and the owner will now have a contact details page. You can use fixes, you can use closes, finishes. These are all very different types of keywords you can use so that Git recognizes that this closes some issues. So we use our closes 1 and 2. You can see combining both issues into one particular branch, and in this commit message I'm indicating that this closes both of them instead of creating separate branches for them. You can see 1 file change and 12 insertions. Do a git status, nothing to commit. Push this to GitHub. So go to my page and you can see there's been a push. Compared and create a pull request. As you can see, so create a pull request to add my changes to EagleSense's GitHub repo. So you can see EagleSense main and my own account. So I'm adding this branch from my own account to EagleSense. Say, hey, review is required, merging is blocked because I cannot directly merge my file. So I ask for a review. Say, hey, review this, my change. So EagleSense reviews my change as the owner of the open source project. It's a nice solution. I approve this and submit review. The moment EagleSense approves the review, see change is approved. On approval, there's no conflict. As you can see on my own account, I can see that EagleSense have left a comment. It's a nice solution. He's approved it. You can see the commits. Add one section. But you can see on my account I can't merge it because I don't have that privilege. I don't have right access to, so I can't merge this particular branch. So only EagleSense can. So EagleSense creates, you can have, I have options, rebase, squash. So merge the pull request as EagleSense because I'm the only one who has that privilege. So EagleSense is has added my own, no more issues. You can see 2 commits behind. So I can fetch from upstream so that my own repo is in sync with the one I forked from EagleSense. So I fetch and merge up to date. So it's up to date with EagleSense source main. As you can see, I have one new branch there. So how do we keep in sync with an open source repo? Get notified about changes. Check that your local master or main branch is up to date with the open source repo. If not, update it, that is fetch and merge. Push the new merge commit to your own repo, to your own remote repo, then create that, updates your remote repo with the fetched changes. So when we go to EagleSense's repo, you can see you can either start this repo. It's like bookmarking it so that whenever you check your stars or your starred repos, you will be able to see it there. This is one way of keeping in touch, in sync with a repo. So you always know how to go and go back to the repository. Another way is to watch a repo. In this case, you get notifications for when different events happen on that particular repository. Like when there's a release, discussion, pull request, issue, you get notified depending on the notifications you subscribe to. It's another way of keeping in sync with the repo and getting notification for changes. So we'll create a change, add job title to the to this particular repo or home page so that we can demonstrate another way of keeping in touch, of updating our open source forked repo. So you can see it says one commit behind EagleSense main. I can easily fetch upstream here, fetch and merge, but no, I want to demonstrate how to do it through your command line interface. So check out to the main branch and do a git remote v. You can see we only have the origin remote, which is my own GitHub account. Copy the URL from EagleSense and add it as the upstream remote. So when you do a git remote v, you can see we now have both origin and upstream. You can fetch and push to. So fetch upstream main. So you can see it has changes, but these changes don't reflect directly on our own GitHub local repo. You can see that our commit says that, our commit history shows that. So when we do a git merge, we can now pull the changes and merge it. When you do a refresh, you can see job title has been added to our local machine. Now we can push these changes to our origin main, pushing the local main to the origin main so that this repo is updated on our GitHub. When you refresh now, that message is gone. You can see it's up to date with EagleSense. It's another way of updating your repo. So what are Git best practices? Commit related changes, commit often, don't commit half done work, test your code before you commit, write good commit messages, use branches, aka topic branches, agree on a workflow with your collaborators or colleagues before you start work. Thank you.